Tip number 1. Use an audio effects rack to automate volume. Typically, you would automate volume using the track volume, but the problem with that is that once you have automated your volume, you are unable to mix the levels near the end of the song. And when you try to re-enable the automation, it'll just take it back to the original level you had it at. Now, to fix that problem, some people suggest that you use a utility. The problem with the utility is that it only goes to -35 decibels, which doesn't turn off the volume completely, so you're still gonna have glimpses of the sound. Now, to fix that problem, you would use an audio effects rack, load up a plugin like an EQ. You would use that anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, and then use the chain to automate the volume. Now, once you automate volume in there, you can go ahead and mix the levels however you want, and it'll still have automation how you want it. Add your Ableton projects folder to your sidebar. So wherever your projects are, you can add the folder, and then you have access to all your projects, and you can drag in any type of track from any project you've made into a current project that you're using. Or if you want to, you could go ahead and literally pull in a whole project, and this is going to take a while. As you can tell, I loaded a whole project, and this is under something that I currently made, and you can just undo it as well. Now, how this can be useful is, let's say you have a complicated routing, like we all know how complicated Cthulhu is to set up in Ableton. You can set it up, save it as a project, and just pull it in. Now, as you can tell, I have Cthulhu in a group. I have the plugin, and then I have a grand piano with MIDI in from Cthulhu, and obviously you can change this sound to whatever you want, but as you can tell, all I have to do is just arm the track, and I'm ready to just go ahead and play, change the settings. Everything's already pre-routed, so it's always a great thing to be able to access all your projects on demand wherever you want to or whenever you want to. Tip number 3, using the arrangement loop as a selection tool. So basically what you can do is go ahead and select a range using the loop tool up here in the bar, and it doesn't even have to be activated for this to work, but then you would hit Command Shift and L, and it would actually select all of the tracks all the way down to the master, and you can go ahead and copy, paste, drag, whatever you want to do. Now, this is useful for many different things. Let's say that you are working on a loop and you want to create variation for a chord progression, and there's a ton of instruments below it. You can hit Command Shift L and then Command D to duplicate it, and then keep working on variation right here within the loop, and then when you're done, hit Command Shift L again and then drag that out, and then you have the original and then some variation, creating space in your arrangement view. Now, let's say that the blue part is the drop and the red part is the build-up. Now, you made a mistake. You forgot to add some space for the second part of the build-up. Now, all you would need to do is make a selection of how much space you want, and it would actually put some space there and push over whatever is there. And it can be any size of a selection. You can go ahead and do that and then duplicate that, and then you have enough space. So Command and I, and you can make space within your arrangement view. Tip number 5, saving track and project defaults. What you can go ahead and do using MIDI and audio tracks is load any sequence of plugins, sounds, and effects. And let's just say you love having a limiter and a gate and a filter delay, and you just cannot get enough of that. You can go ahead and save this as the default MIDI track, and now whenever you create a new MIDI track, you have a limiter, a gate, and a filter delay. You can go ahead and do this with audio tracks as well. Also, let's say you want to start every project like this. You can go ahead and go into preferences and do save current set as default. Now obviously I'm not going to hit that because this is not how I want to start my projects, but you can even go ahead and go as far as to change the volume and set the default. And let's just say you love -10, that's like your favorite number. Every MIDI track or every audio track is going to show up with all that, including the volume and whatever pan settings, whatever you want on that track if you save it as the default. Tip number 6, holding Alt to copy a selection. This is a pretty simple tip. Basically, if you hold Alt while you're dragging something and then you let go while still keeping your finger on Alt, it'll go ahead and copy whatever you have selected. So as you can tell, I did that with a track, but you can go ahead and do that with a loop as well. This is particularly helpful when I find myself freezing a track and I want to turn this awesome chord progression into a audio file without losing the MIDI. I'll just hold Alt and then let go of the left click while still holding Alt, and it will make a copy. And then I can unfreeze my track, mute it, and save it for later. So obviously there's all kinds of uses for this. You can do this with plugins, with effects. Just go ahead and hold Alt and you can drag stuff out. Using delete to bring parameters back to default. So let's say that I have the volume down and I want to bring it back to 0, which is the default. I would hit delete. Same thing with panning, hit delete and it'll turn it back to default. Now you can do this with all kinds of plugins. If you hit delete, it'll turn back the setting to default, whatever it is. Any effects, you can even do it within the Ableton instruments, everything Ableton, and it will turn back to default. This will not work with third-party plugins, but it's very useful for if you're editing all kinds of parameters within Ableton. Dragging clips into your sidebar. As you can tell in my samples folder, I have a groove folder, a loop folder, and then a MIDI folder as well, and there's already something in there. But basically what you can go ahead and do is, as you can tell, I have a MIDI file with a piano. I have a frozen file, which is an audio file, and then I have a drum loop. Now what I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate is all the different things you can do. You can go ahead and drag a MIDI file into your sidebar. You can call it C major MIDI 120 BPM and save it for later. And you can drag it outside of this folder that it makes. You can delete that. You can also do this with audio in the loop folder. I'm going to put it there. And you want to get the sample out and put it in loop, and then you can delete this big folder that it makes. And then you have the loop, and then you have the MIDI as well, and as you can tell, you can preview it. Now that's not all you can do. You can also, let's say I have a groove. I'm going to extract the groove from this loop, and basically what a groove is a swing pattern. And when you listen to this track, you can hear it has some swing. And let's say I like this, I can also save this and drag it, and I can call it whatever I want to, my groove. And I can drag this to any MIDI file, audio file, whatever. It just basically becomes an easy way to load ideas without having to load projects. And let's say you have tons of writer's block all the time, and you're the type of person to come up with great ideas, but you don't finish them. You don't want your ideas to be sitting in a project locked away forever, where you're never going to open it ever again. So you can go ahead and save all these different ideas as loops. You can literally just drag them into place, and it will load. Now let's say I want to drag in a MIDI clip from a different project, and I can preview it as well to see what it's all about. Obviously I can label it as best as I can to try to remember, but if I don't remember, I can preview it, and it will even play the preview with the instrument that I was using when I dragged it in. So now that I kind of hear it, I can hear it in context and everything, but I can even drag it into whatever MIDI track that I have currently. Or if I want it how I had it before and I like that sound, I can drag it into an open space and it will actually load the exact track with the plugin that I was using. And some of you guys may recognize this from a video I made. It will literally load exactly how you had it before. And again, the groove can be dragged to audio MIDI tracks as usual, and you basically have your own custom library of grooves, samples, and MIDI clips. Tip number 9, ghost sidechaining. So as you can tell right here, I have a MIDI track and it's basically just an operator. And what we can do is go ahead and turn down the volume completely and add a MIDI effect, add a note length modifier, and we can go ahead and change the note length right here. We want to turn it all the way down for now. And then we can create a MIDI clip, and let's go ahead and make a sidechain pattern. I might want to switch it up a little bit, have some weird kind of sidechain effects, I guess. And now what we can go ahead and do is sidechain any instrument that has a compressor on it, add a compressor to an instrument and sidechain it to the ghost sidechain pre-effects, and turn down the threshold all the way so that we can go ahead and hear this effect completely. And I also want to turn down the release so that it'll be a little bit faster, and turn on the attack. And let's go ahead and listen. And obviously we can turn up the note length, or within here we can turn up the release as well and have custom sidechain. So very cool ghost sidechaining. Number 10, automate an auto filter using sidechain. The same way that we can sidechain this to the ghost track, we can also automate the auto filter plugin using the ghost sidechain, or any sidechain for that matter. Now obviously we need to activate the sidechain mode, and it's kind of like a hidden feature. We're just going to use the ghost sidechain that we used before, and as you can see I turned off the compressor so that we won't hear that. Basically we want the envelope to be all the way down, because as you can see the filter is all the way up, and I want to add a little bit of resonance so that we can hear the filter a little bit more, and the gain needs to be all the way up. And we're going to turn on the release and the attack, and turn up the attack just a little bit so that we can kind of hear some fade in. And let's go ahead and listen to the result. We can turn up the note length or turn it down. But if we look at an EQ, put it up here, if we look very closely we can see that the filter's coming in and cutting it off every time the ghost note hits. So yeah, anyways, those were 10 Ableton tricks. There are many more, but I thought that these were very cool, and I kind of found them over the course of me learning how to produce. I hope these tricks helped you, or these little tips, and hopefully this improves your workflow as much as it did mine. But anyways, I appreciate you watching this. So if you did enjoy this, leave a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys next time.